I've never been a fan of the Venom films. Thought the first one was okay, second one not so much. But I always said, you know what? Sony doesn't want to give the rights entirely to Marvel, so let them make their little slop. Now, around the same time that the first Venom came out, I was a fan of the King of Black story, where it was Venom versus Knull, the creator of the symbiotes. And there were a couple of people who made videos like speculating that eventually, if Sony's universe keeps going, they'll introduce Knull and try to have him be their Thanos equivalent, like to what Thanos was in the MCU. Now, when Venom 3 was, coming out before it came out a week ago, it was revealed that Tom Hardy was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing any more of these. This is my final one." That's why it's called The Last Dance. And in the lead up to the movie coming out, we found out Knull was in it, right? He's got a few scenes. They've stated that he's supposed to be introduced here to play some bigger role in something else. And the whole time I'm hearing about this, because I still haven't seen the movie, I've just read the plot summary. I'm scratching my head, wondering what is wrong with Sony. So, like I said, Knull is probably the most significant villain that Venom has besides Carnage, to where there's a whole storyline of them just fighting with each other. But you're going to introduce him with the intention of him having further appearances in the movie where you're getting rid of his arch enemy. I mean, when Null does his invasion of Earth with his symbiotes, who is he supposed to fight? Craven, Madam Web, Morbius. This has got to be one of the dumbest decisions I've seen a studio do since the MCU thought it was a good idea to introduce the Mandarin after Iron Man was gone. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. But then I was thinking about it. I said, when you go through these films, right? You go through Venom 1, Venom 2, Venom 3. You can tell there wasn't really a clear pathway for a trilogy. It just kind of happened where it was like, okay, the first one made a lot of money, so let's do a second one. Then the second one made, not as much, but a little bit more, or a little bit more than what the rest of our filth is making. So let's pop out the third one. And now that they're seemingly wrapping up their trilogy, they're introducing stuff that, I mean, I don't know where the Knull thing would even be resolved. There's not going to be a Venom 4 apparently. Morbius and Madam Web are almost certainly not getting sequels. So where is Knull supposed to go? Who is he supposed to fight? Isn't it sad that Sony, they would rather just burn money on all these horrible films than just work with Marvel to make one that potentially is not, just garbage. Because I know the MCU is having its problems right now, but I pretty much watch anything out of there over Morbius or Madam Web. I mean, it is sludge central with Sony right now. They have cranked out 5 films in this joke of a cinematic universe in the last 6 years, and not a single one of them would anyone say is their favorite movie of the year. Would anyone say was really good? The only accolade they have to their name is that the first Venom and the second one made a decent, a few hundred millions or whatever, right? So like some decent change. But again, who is watching these and actually thinking they're great or good, or, oh man, I can't wait to see what happens in the next one? And it's so sad too, because if they had played ball with Marvel, they could have had the first Venom, right? Little references to Spider-Man. He gets the symbiote off screen, right? It's not a thing that really takes up that big a portion of the movie. And Carnage would be there because Carnage makes the most sense for him to fight out of any damn body. In the second one, right, they could have him fight somebody else and kind of like, allude to Knull, and then the third one could be him versus Knull. But instead, we have set up for something that, as far as I can tell, is not going to happen anytime soon or at all. And that's another problem with these just with the whole issue of cinematic universes and these franchise films, where a lot of times they just assume that no matter how bad their movie is, people are going to watch it and buy tickets to it enough for them to make another one where all this nonsense gets resolved or gets expanded upon. So instead of being focused on making Venom 3, this conclusive, amazing tale, they're more interested in, okay, how can we set up another movie that in all likelihood is not going to be decent based off the track record that we've had from the last several films that we've released. I could talk more about Morbius and Madam Web and how Craven is in all likelihood going to be just as bad as the other two. But, these are all characters and things that are better suited in some other story, right? Don't really should not be their own thing. And certainly if they are their own thing, should not be done this poorly. Venom is probably Marvel's most iconic superhero introduced after the 70s, like from the last 40 years, like him and probably I'd be hard pressed to think of anyone after the 70s that's as iconic to Marvel as Venom is. And it's really sad to know that he's a character who's had his own comics, his own stories, and they just don't seem interested in adapting them in any decent way, form, or shape. It is all corporations trying to squeeze out as much money from half-baked, overproduced garbage. Like that's all they've made for the last 6 years, just trash. And they think if they sprinkle a little bit of comic stuff in front of us, we're going to jump like hyenas to see this, but it doesn't work. And and like what I'm so offended by the most is that Marvel, again, people have their problems with them, but you look at phase 1 of the MCU, brilliant. Give every major hero some appearance where you develop them, and then they can all come together in some team up film. There's no way in hell anybody's going to want to watch Sony's Sinister Six when the lineup is, awful Jared Leto Morbius, in all likelihood very bland Craven, and then apparently Venom's not even going to be in it. So what are we supposed to get excited for? If every film you've released up until now has been bland, boring, and lousy in terms of its characters, its story, and pretty much every other aspect of it, just these blatant attempts at cash grabs, who is enthused for more? Oh my God, comic fans, rejoice. Knull is in the movie for like 2 or 3 scenes. This one person said, imagine if they did trailers for Avengers and they put Thanos in there, like the little like post-credit scene of him sitting in his chair. That's what they're doing with Knull, where it's like he's barely in the movie. He's not the main villain. He's not doing anything that affects the plot anyway in terms of like being directly involved. But they want us to get excited for him. And some hypothetical movie that in all likelihood is going to be just as I mark my words, if Venom 3 is terrible, then any film they make after this is going to just be even worse. They have learned nothing from all of these bombs, and just they never will. Their whole mission is to just see how much money they can make from barely putting any thought into the stuff they release, and trying to hold on to the rights of characters that they're not doing any more justice than Marvel would have done for them. It's sad. But yeah, that's why I hate Sony.